Hello everyone. My name is Jun Mitsui from Fudo Tetra Corporation. Today, I'd like to introduce our research on simulation of the behavior of tetrapods against solitary wave using DualSPHysics. During the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, a large number of armor units installed at the breakwaters were scattered due to tsunami. Predicting the stability of the armor units by numerical simulation is an important but challenging task. SPH is a suitable numerical method capable of solving multi-body and body-fluid interaction for its mesh-free nature. Therefore, it might be applicable to investigate the behavior of multiple objects with complex shapes such as a group of tetrapods. In this study, we aimed to reproduce the behavior of tetrapods against solitary wave using DualSPHysics and investigate its applicability. First, I'd like to explain the experimental setup. We used a waveflume with a piston-type wave maker as shown in the figure. We generated solitary wave by pushing the wave paddle. The offshore wave heights were set to 2.6 cm, 4.5 cm, and 6.4 cm. We used fixed seabed with slope of 1/30, and tetrapods were placed on the mound. The tetrapod models used in the experiments are made of mortar and have a mass of 300 grams and a height of 7.7 cm. They are placed in a row on top of the mound as shown in these photographs. The mound is impermeable and the surface is made of PVC. After the wave action, the number of blocks moved and the displacement were measured. Experiments were repeated 3 times for each wave height. The tetrapods were reinstalled for each wave action. Next, I'd like to explain the numerical method. First, a 2-dimensional analysis for the entire waveflume was performed using OpenFOAM, and then the results were connected by one-way coupling to a 3-dimensional analysis for a region near the structure using DualSPHysics. In the 3D analysis using DualSPHysics, rigid body motion analysis by Project Chrono is also performed simultaneously. Here I will explain how to connect OpenFOAM results to DualSPHysics analysis. First, the water particle trajectories and the flow velocities at the particle positions were obtained based on the 2D analysis result. This was done as post-processing using ParaView. The wave paddle in the DualSPHysics at the coupling position is then driven in accordance with the particle trajectories. This can be done by applying the multi-layered piston. Next, we move on to the boundary conditions. Initially, we applied dynamic boundary condition to the boundary for the tetrapods, because it can easily handle objects with complex shapes. However, the dynamic boundary condition generates gap between the wall and the fluid particles. As shown in the upper figure, there are no water particles around the tetrapods. As a result, the fluid force acting on each block was not calculated correctly. One practical solution would be to create rigid body particles using a reduced shape in advance, as shown in the lower figure. But this is not an elegant way. So this problem was solved by applying modified dynamic boundary conditions, which is one of the new features in DualSPHysics version 5.0. This slide shows the main novelties with DualSPHysics version 5.0. As listed in the fourth item, a new boundary condition called Modified Dynamic Boundary Condition has been added. In this boundary condition, the density of solid particle is obtained from ghost positions within the fluid domain by linear extrapolation. Therefore, the gap of dynamic boundary condition is avoided, and the pressure of the boundary converges to hydrostatic in still water. The figure shows the created particles and the normal vectors. Normals are used for the modified dynamic boundary condition. In the version 5, we can create particles at free positions, so the particles are placed along the slope instead of in a stair shape. In this study, the distance between particles was set to 5 millimeters. Size of the tetrapods are 7.7 centimeters, so that we have 15 particles in each dimension. The friction coefficient is an important parameter to reproduce the behavior of the tetrapods. So we measured the coefficient of friction between the tetrapods and PVC in advance. As shown in the photo, the tetrapod model was placed on a PVC panel, and the friction force was measured by pulling it slowly. The measurement was repeated 10 times, and we obtained an average value of 0.32 as the coefficient of friction. This value was then used in the calculation by Project Chrono. Now let's move on to the validation results. The right figures compare the time series of the free surface elevation in front of the structure for 3 different wave heights. The red line shows the experimental result, and the blue line shows the calculated result. We can see that the water levels agreed very well for all wave heights. I'd like to show you a video. This is a case with the smallest wave height of 2.6 centimeter. In this case, we can see that the tetrapods sliding due to the current toward the shore. In the experiment, almost all of the tetrapods moved except for 2 out of 15 blocks. On the other hand, all blocks moved in the calculation. When we compared the average displacement, it was 12.7 centimeter in both cases, showing a very good agreement. I'll show you one more video. This is a top view of the movement of the tetrapods for 3 different wave heights. The 3 line shows the average of the displacement obtained in the experiments. As the wave height increases, the displacement also increases. We can see that the calculation results well reproduce the experimental result. The validation results regarding the damage ratio and the displacement are summarized in these figures. The upper figure shows the percentage of the number of moved blocks. The lower figure shows the average displacement, and the orange bars show the results of the 3 experiments, and the blue one shows the calculation results. As you can see from these figures, overall, the damage and displacement also agreed well. Finally, I'd like to talk about the ongoing works. First, we are validating under another condition where the friction of the mound is higher and the tetrapods move in a rotating manner. In addition, in the future, we would like to validate under a more complex condition where the tetrapods are placed in 2 layers. So, this is the conclusion of this study. We have validated the applicability of the DualSPHysics to simulate the behavior of tetrapods against solitary wave. Experimental free surface elevation was accurately reproduced by one-way coupling method, in which the wave paddle was moved according to the water particle trajectories. Modified dynamic boundary condition was applied. This eliminated the gaps between the wall and the fluid particle that was a problem in DVC. As a result, damage and the displacement of the tetrapods placed in a single row on a smooth mound were well reproduced. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.